Fun. It is Friday. That's Training Friday. How to close a deal Friday. That's what we're doing on training today. If you've missed any of the trainings, they're all on the playbook. Just download the playbook, share it, like it. The playbook's on every platform. It's featured on Spotify. There's a playlist of the playbook. Check it out. You can catch all the trainings, etc. of the playbook. Looking forward to speaking with everyone here at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Join me for the training on how to close a deal. It's on IG Live at 11 a.m. Here today. And of course, if you want my book, ebook, audiobook, or a signed copy shipped to you, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mikey, Jakey, Phoenix. Good morning, everyone. Questions are pouring in already. Let's get them going. Always here to be of service. What do you do differently on weekends? I have a weighted balance. So I do the same thing. I have the non-negotiables, a minimum of an hour on my health, except for I spend more time than normal, but on my health. Minimum of time with my family, except for I spend more time with my family. Minimum of time researching, except for I spend more time doing the non-negotiables on the weekend. But I have activity I get paid for. I do IGs, I do coaching, I do all types of activity I get paid for. I just shift the balance, the weighted balance of the activities I have, the activity I get paid and activity I don't have paid. So every day I vacation more on the weekends than I vacation on Monday to Friday. But I have a weighted balance differential. I don't have different activities. I just have weighted the balance of personal experiential giving and receiving differently on the weekends than I do most of the weekdays. Sometimes not, but I believe in consistent, persistent behavior. I believe 2 minutes a day of vacationing is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday. I believe 2 minutes with my teenage daughter a day is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday. Although I may spend 2 hours on a Saturday with my daughter, which is bonus time, it is just exponentially favored and appreciated by the 2 minutes I spend all week, each day minimum, with my teenage daughters, for example. Do you think the law field is watered down one? I want to become a lawyer, but feel there are more than we need. Oh, well, if that's your philosophy, then don't do anything. Either you want to and have a desire to be the best that you can be, a desire to be the best that you can be, whether it be a doctor, lawyer, or a failure, whatever it may be. So just if you want to be a lawyer, learn about being a lawyer and be the best one you can. I promise you, there's plenty of room for the best. There's never room for mediocre, and even worse for less than mediocre. Okay, so go ahead, enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. Have you met anyone interesting recently? Yeah, tons of people every single day. Interesting people every day on office hours, IG Live. Yesterday, I was with Rick Necchio, who is an executive with Anheuser-Busch, who now has Necchio Novak equity firm, which is invested in Danica Patrick Rose. I was with Lee Zeidman, the president of Staples, and all the properties around Staples there, the Microsoft Theater, etc. I'm blessed. I'm the Napoleon Hill of life. I get to surround myself with extraordinary people, billionaires, millionaires, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, entertainers, all teaching me the secrets of success. I particularly liked meeting Rick Necchio because he had such great insight for working with for 20 years, the marketing giant of Anheuser-Busch that it is. And of course, Lee Zeidman, one of the best interviews, easiest interviews I have ever had. Just love the guy to death. Incredible dude. Anyway, blessed. Good questions as well. How do you handle a closed mind? Try to walk away from it. I think it takes 1,000 times the energy to re-engineer a closed mind than it does to find an open one. So I try to stay away from, allow closed minds to fall away from me, and I'm working on that. What's one skill you wish you had? Well, I don't wish I had any skills, because if I was wishing I had it, I'd go start developing that skill. I don't, and as I take inventory of my values, find there's any skills I wish I had. because I'd be practicing it every day to acquire that skill. I'd find someone who has that skill and ask them for directions on how to get that skill. So I'm really not somebody who's wishing for something I don't have, because I would take action in order to practice it so that it becomes part of me, and I'd seek help from someone that already has it in order to do that. What's your favorite father and son activity? Mostly anything around sports, playing with my son, sports, any sports, baseball, football, golf, any sport that he wants to do. That's my favorite thing to do, to spend time with my son. We both share an affinity for that, and we enjoy each other's company for sure. Is there a difference between acceptance and approval? Yeah, approval has judgments and conditions tied to it. Acceptance has allowance tied to it. And so much better to be in a state of allowance than approval. Instead of seeking someone's judgment and condition, seek allowance for acceptance. What's the most challenging deal you've ever closed? Elevator Pitch, the TV show, executive producer for 6 seasons of Elevator Pitch, on the show for 5 seasons. But like I have mentioned earlier, the egos involved in producing that show were astronomical. From the producers to the directors to, all the different partners, the equity guy, everybody's ego. And so all of that interference made it very difficult to close that deal, which we did and we're very successful with. My difficulty was I look for the light, the love, and the lessons in everyone, not the differences, the separation, and the scarcity. And, in the entertainment business especially, it's a very scarce business, and people have the wrong mindset. And so I think it pervaded that very difficult deal to close. But it did. So that's good. What were the benefits of you going to law school? Wow, there's so many, right? I mean, the biggest benefit were the people that I met, which led to my first job in the internet. The second was the education that I got, which is applicable to so many different things in my life. And the third was to understand the scarcity of law and how it's built on a level of scarcity and competition and conflict, and especially in the billing mechanism. I think the quantitative value of going to law school for me is how much money I saved on my law bills from identifying, how much lying, cheating, overselling, back-end selling, and manipulating goes on in that process, especially working for Westlaw and seeing so many different law firms of how they bill and the integrity that is lacking with so many lawyers when it comes to their billing especially. It's a very scarce profession, but an incredibly valuable education. That's why so many people go to law school but don't become lawyers. How do you manage people to engage in your lives? How do you get them to stay listening and interested at the low focus society? Well, I look to see what people are listening for, not listening to, right? So I want to try to resonate and change lives by understanding what they're listening for, what can help them, what can provide value to them. Remember, it's not what you say, it's what people hear. They're only going to hear what they're listening for at a frequency or spectrum in which they can identify and be aware of the data in which you're transmitting. And so in order to do that, it's really important to be an intelligent follower and figure out what people are listening for, not listening to. All right, keep them coming. When is the last time you didn't spend minutes and moments accelerating in the wrong direction? That's a very inherent question. So what you're asking is, when's the last time that I spent too much time in ego, right? Getting mad, angry, worried, etc. I think in Ohio, I talked about a situation where I was emotionally in the anxiety zone. I had my son with me. I was lost. I had limited amount of time. I was emotionally attached to see my aunt, who was married to my uncle, who had passed away, and who I, because of COVID, hadn't been able to go to the funeral, and my cousin, who I'm closest with, and all of these different things aggregated upon putting me far into the anxiety zone until I spent more than minutes and moments outside of peace, until I finally stopped crying, by the way, and breathed got back to center. Oh, my best friend who had quadruple bypass surgery was coming, and he was late, and then I can't even put myself back into that mindset. But yes, that was the last time I was outside of my learning zone and far into the anxiety zone. So that's so good. Here we go. How do you deal with a client who is hard to get a hold of? I use a 3-no rule. So if I can't get a hold of someone 3 times, on the 3rd time, I let them know that I'm going to be focusing on people I can help and I can get a hold of. And if they want to get a hold of me, that I'll be available to help when they are available. And 50% of the time they call right back. I've compelled them and accelerated the conversation. The other 50% of the time or so, I never hear back, which is even more valuable to me, instead of chasing someone that never wants to talk to me. So here we go. Keep the questions coming. What's the first big deal you closed in your career? Oh, wow. That was really early on. I worked for West Publishing, and I closed a large opportunity for Westlaw and CD-ROMs. Very large opportunity, and especially for me, because any opportunity was a large one, because I never had made real money before. And so, making all that money my very first month was an incredible transformation in my life. How do you make such quick decisions? Know your what, your who, your how, your now, and your why. So I have 5 daily practices that I use, and that allows me to effectuate anything intellectually or intuitively that comes about in order to make a decision. I'm more than happy to send you these 5 daily practices. I say it every day. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. I will send you the 5 daily practices of knowing your what, your who, your how, your now, and your why. It's the easiest way to get to what you want in life, step by step, consistently, persistently, every way. Justin, you might have to explain what CD-ROMs are. CD-ROMs are like a DVD without video. So it was a disc, and a compact disc, a CD, that had memory on it, just like a stick, except for it was a disc, and you would put data on it, but no video. It was all just data, no video. CD-ROM, what are CD-ROMs? Oh my gosh, I'm old. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, it's a DVD with no video. It's a disc that holds your information, your Word documents, and it held all the research data from West before they could, so you didn't have to go online because it was so slow. It was much faster to have all the California cases on a CD, on a compact disc. How do you get your first client with no portfolio to show? It's okay to use work you've done from previous jobs. The way you get your first client is, 1, to be as credible as you can, using every ability you can to be credible, and 2, get emotional attachment, and then 3, ask, utilizing the reasons, impacts, and capabilities to make sure that you're asking by illustrating the quantitative value that you're asking for to be greater than that which you're asking for. So if you can articulate the quantitative value to be greater than what you're asking for, have credibility, emotional attachments, be able to explain the features and benefits as reasons, impacts, and capabilities for that quantifiable value, you will succeed whether or not you have a portfolio or any clients at all. Illuminate the fact that it's first client, utilize that maybe as credibility or emotional attachment by providing a substantial reason as well as impact to, even though this is my first opportunity, this is what I'm going to do for you, and articulate that with credibility and emotional attachment. Josh Miller, he is the Owens Mixers president, co-founder of Owen Craft Mixers, ginger beer, Moscow Mule. There he is. What's going on, Josh?
Hey, David, how are you?
I am fantastic. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem. You're in a growing industry, so I wanted to, number one, give you an opportunity, give me a quick overview on what you're doing with Owens Mixers, and I know you have a question for me.
Yeah, so we're a non-alcoholic premium cocktail mixer brand. Happy to report we're the fastest growing for literally the past 6 quarters in a row. Really at the core root of it, my brother-in-law and I started this company 5 years ago. And really, our focus from day one was based off an experience we had in a bar or restaurant that many people have. We tend to get impatient after you order something and you have an expectation for it to be like the best tasting cocktail you've ever had. And the reality is that not every time is going to be perfect. And so we were waiting for drinks. They came out a little bit later than expected. And we looked at each other and we said, it's kind of crazy how in every other category you have such a simple premium option, meaning if I order a beer, doesn't matter where I am, it's the same tasting beer everywhere, whether it's California, Texas, New York, or if I order a shot of whiskey or bourbon, whatever it may be, it tastes the same everywhere. We wanted to bring a more approachable way to make cocktails at home or behind the bar. So we thought about it and we said, let's just start making cocktail mixers with real juice, pure cane sugar, have clean label ingredients, but more importantly, make it so that it's approachable to anybody. My age-old saying is, if I can get my mom to make a high-quality cocktail in 2 easy steps, then anybody can. So we literally started making them in the kitchen in New York City in a tiny apartment. And now we have an entire portfolio of cocktail mixers that are extremely versatile. You can drink them on their own if you don't drink alcohol as a mocktail, or you can pair them with your favorite spirit.
That is so awesome. So what question do you have for me?
I would say what is the best way to have others feel the same passion that you did the day that you came up with the idea to start a company? And how do you continually keep them motivated and feel that type of fire that you have?
I assume you're talking about people that work with you internally and
Work with
collaborate, or
or
customers.
or those who work with us, partners. Like, it's not necessarily just, you want others around you to feel the same passion you have.
Right on. I can see people love the Barstool Transfusion mix, by the way. They keep on commenting on that.
Selling it.
So first of all, you got to look within yourself, because it'll be very rare that someone has the same emotional attachment to your product, service, or solution than you do. And so, number one, you have to manage your expectation that there is a dissolution of interest determinative upon the relativity of your product, service, or solution to the distance between those people. So internally, your executives are going to probably be more engaged, down to your management, down to your employees, down to the customer. I think the bigger question to ask beyond managing your own expectations is, how do I reach, right, that in spirit, no pun intended, that inspiration that creates an emotional attachment, a love for your product. And in order to do that, you really have to find the spectrum of people of why, right? You have the reasons. You want, number one, people want quick, and they want taste good, easy to use, right? So those are all great, but in the end, the greatest emotion that you have is taste. Right? They're going to drink it because it tastes good.
Yep.
And it's proven everywhere around the world that price does not matter. If something tastes better,
Yep.
People will pay more. In fact, if it tastes the best, people will pay an extraordinary amount because they want to do that. So I think, number one, you're not reaching enough people, because the more people that you reach, a certain percent of those are going to love your product.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to love the taste. And when they love the taste, they're going to love the packaging and love the promotions. And they're going to love, the tie-ins with Mario Lemieux and Barstool and all the other great things that you're doing. So if somebody drinks the Moscow Mule and it tastes better than what they're used to, and it was easier, doesn't matter price, that they're going to love it. And when they love it, they're going to tell people, oh my God, do you like Moscow Mules? Here. Do you like the Transfusion? Here. Do you like this mix? Here. You got to try Owen's mixers. And that's what's happening right now. That's why you're the fastest growing in your category for so long. And it'll continue to grow and go. It just takes time, because every person needs, number one, to taste it, reorder it, and also resell it. And, remember how things aggregate. 90% of your efforts will get you to 25% of the way there, then 50, then 100, then 200, 400. It looks like you've reached the hockey stick, because you're up 249% since a year ago. 500, right? So next is 1,000%, and then 2,000%.
Yep.
So I would say, look, continue to do what you're doing and continue to get better. and you'll aggregate, you'll accelerate, exponentially grow. Your customer base will compound their love for it. So number one, manage your expectation that no one's going to love your product as much as you. But two, realize that they do love it in varying degrees according to their relativity, and it will continue to exponentially grow if you continue to do the right things, the same things, but better as you move forward. Does that sound fair?
I think that's a very fair point.
You're awesome, man. Well, people can find you at owensmixers.com.
Correct.
Anywhere else you want them to reach out, want them to go? What else can you sell me?
I would highly encourage anybody to find it on Amazon if they don't want to go to a store. We did just strike a 8,000 store deal with CVS, so there's pretty much a CVS on every block. But I want everybody to just make Owens their own and figure out how they can use it to improve their drinking lifestyle.
And real quick, why Owens?
So my great-great-grandfather was an Irish immigrant who migrated to the United States in 1864. He opened the first bar general store in Portland, Maine with his brother. So when we were naming the company, we wanted it named after my great-great-grandfather because my brother-in-law and I started it. And so it's been passed down generation to generation, and we felt like it was only fitting that a family of entrepreneurs continues the spirit.
Yeah, and Miller was already taken, so I got to go back farther. Right?
A little bit of a popular brand name, so I felt like, you know what, I won't challenge it. I'll just embrace it, but you know how it is.
Well, you give new meaning to Miller time. Check out Owens Mixers.
Love it.
All over the place. Go to Amazon, go to Publix, go to CVS. These guys are killing it. They'll continue to kill it. Go ahead, Owen, reach out to me if you need help, though. I have some ideas for you on scaling and also some promotional ideas for you and some relationships to give to you.
Thank you so much, David. Have a great day.
Thanks, Josh. Take care. Check it out. Owens Mixers, incredibly fast-growing, successful company, easy to use and delicious. That's why you're going to love it. Making your favorite drinks easy and better tasting. Can you ask for more? There's a quantitative value to articulate that's greater than what you're going to pay. You got it all over the place. All right, let's take another question here. It's Friday. If you want my 5 daily practices, just reach out, david@dmeltzer.com, or my book, ebook, audiobook, or signed book. I'll send it to you, pay for shipping. david@dmeltzer.com. It's pinned right below. david@dmeltzer.com. What kind of research are you doing this week? I'm doing research on the ego this week and utilizing childhood experiences and how they affect us and our survival mentality and how that manifests itself as you turn 53 years old. It's an interesting topic to research of the effects of childhood trauma on an old man, middle-aged man, whatever you want to call me. I'm limitless man, timeless man, whatever you want to call me. All right, good question. Thank you so much. Here we go. No, don't have my nose. I want him to have your nose. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Sometimes I get stuff I just don't understand. What's the first thing you try to look for when looking for someone's credibility? I don't look for credibility. What I do is I trust everyone and then vet them. So I ask hard questions. I pick up on things that are incongruent, that are overselling, back-end selling, lying, manipulating, or cheating. And I ask questions to vet them, hard questions that make me uncomfortable because I feel like I'm hurting the person's feelings because they feel as if I don't trust them because I'm calling them on their BS, or I'm asking questions as if I am calling them on their BS. And 90% of the time, I catch them in their BS, no different than anybody else. But that's the process in which I utilize. What are the most looking forward to in NOLA? Well, I am just so proud of my daughter graduating with honors from Tulane. So I'm most looking forward to celebrating her. Although most of the time in New Orleans, I like the music and the food. This trip to New Orleans, I am looking forward to celebrating my daughter, who I love, I'm proud of, and I always have her back. She is incredible. She's listening. Hopefully she is. I could not be prouder of what you've learned and how you act. So thank you very much for asking that question. Very good. I taught her the 5 daily practices as well, sent those to her. You can email me, know your what, your who, your how, your now, and your why. David@dmeltzer.com. Send you my book, my audiobook, ebook. I'll sign a book, ship it to you, pay for shipping. How do you deal with being confused with the wrestling writer, David Meltzer? how do I deal with being confused with the wrestling writer? I love it. The guy's awesome. And so I think it's funny when people attack me because of him, and haven't been more interested than interesting to know who they're talking to. But I think it's interesting how many, highly successful David Meltzers there are. You think it'd be a unique name, but there's literally like 10 super successful, well-known David Meltzers, from the wrestling David Meltzer to the poet David Meltzer to the Nassau David Meltzer to the Red Cross David Meltzer. All these David Meltzers just somehow, and I think it's because the name means beloved servant. So David Meltzer means beloved servant. I was born on 1/11 as a beloved servant, January 11th at 111. The beloved servant, David Meltzer. What were you doing at the age of 20 to 25? Mostly in college and law school. So wasn't making a lot of money until I was 24 and having a lot of fun always. I was learning lessons, that's for sure, but I was experiencing life. Highly weighted values on experience. Is the only purpose of life being successful, determined upon what your definition of success is, right? I believe the purpose of life is to enjoy the consistent, everyday, persistent without quit pursuit of my potential. So very good. I have a feeling that I have Appalachian Mountain Club. Let me see here. I think they gave me the wrong Sarah Nelson. I got you here. I bet you this is it. All right, we got a different login, but hopefully this is Dr. Sarah Nelson, the AMC Conservative Research Director of the Appalachian Mountain Club, joining us here today to promote the AMC's Conservation Action Network, the CAN. Whether you think you can or you can't, either way, you're right. Let's talk about conservation and its issues. Oops, maybe it didn't hit there. Let's try it one more time. Looking here, I think, Sarah, I'm hitting you. You may have to update your Instagram because I don't think it's connecting. So, Jake, can you help Dr. Sarah Nelson with the Instagram so I can connect? It's not allowing me to connect with her, and so I will try one more time this way. But I think it may need to be upgraded. Anyway, if anybody wants my book, ebook, audiobook, want me to sign a book, ship it to you, and send it, I will do so. It's not a problem. And so just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Join my text community, 949-298-2905. Join me back here in 2 hours and a half. I'm doing training on how to close a deal. So 11 a.m. Pacific time, training on how to close a deal. And through that, we can learn a lot together. Fridays are my trainings. They're featured on Spotify, every platform. The playbook, download it. The playbook, millionaires, billionaires, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, entertainers, and of course, my trainings, all there. What is my book? I have 4 books, all bestsellers. You can enjoy them all. Connected to Goodness, Compassionate Capitalism, Unstoppable, Creating the Life You Love, and of course, Game Time Decision Making. Go ahead, reach out to me. See you at 11, pretty. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, let's take a few more questions while Sarah gets her IG groove back. Favorite action movies, Rocky movies, Rudy, anything done by Angelo Pizzo. Those are the best. If you want my book, by the way, david@dmeltzer.com. So there we go. What's your go-to snack for energy? Apple and peanut butter. That is my go-to, apple and peanut butter. So that's my go-to energy snack. Not sure if it's good or bad or not. Here we go. I am a lesbian. How do I tell my friends? Tell them. Do not be afraid of who you are, right? Friends are people who love us for all who we are. And we need to be and love ourselves. And once you love yourselves, you can love, and others will love you. So just be honest. Go ahead. I'm letting Dr. Sarah Nelson join me right now from the outdoors, of course. There she is. AMC, protecting our mountains, rivers, forests, and trails. Hello.
Hi, how are you? Sorry about that. It was updated. I don't know why it wasn't.
It's amazing, but we do this all the time. Not a problem. Thank you for your patience. We were excited to talk to you. You're doing such good work. And so I thought, number one, you give me a little bit about the CAN, the Conservation Action Network, and what great work you're doing and how we can support you.
Yeah, that's a great way to start out, actually. So, Appalachian Mountain Club, we're located here in the Northeast, and we do a lot of work. My department is the research program. And one of the really cool things about AMC is that we do policy work and advocacy to work on conservation around the region and even more broadly. And all of that is supported by science and research. So we have Conservation Action Network, which people can join, and you'll get alerts when you can weigh in with policymakers about important issues around the environment and conservation. And reach out. It'll give you templates or direct lines to reach out to members of Congress and other folks to get work done for conservation.
And it's never been more important to get this work done. A lot of people are worried about the earth itself, and I always say it's really the earth will be here. It's the people that you're really worried about. We want the people to be able to inhabit the earth. In order to do that, we have to create this great policies to protect those resources which are so important to human life. I promise you can fill the earth with plastic, it'll still be here. You cut down every tree, the earth will still be here. It won't be inhabitable. So I would love, people to have that perspective. And that's why your research is so important, because your research is determined on how can we maximize the resources we have to make this a better place to inhabit, not only for us, but for future generations. What are some of the things that we can do beyond the policy side? What are some of the policies that we should be supporting that can create a more inhabitable planet for our future generation?
Yeah, a lot of what my team and I work on is related to climate change and air pollution and water quality. And those really are all related. So, as you mentioned, we're always emitting substances into the world. That's pollution, it happens. And with climate change, we've just really sped up the rate at which we're emitting some of these things, and it's causing these big changes. So, really thinking about how we can reduce pollution, reduce air pollutants, including carbon dioxide, which does affect our climate and warms it up and changes it long term. It's all about kind of taking action to try to work on that. We see it from the science. And so, the old kind of reduce, reuse, recycle, how can we reduce our carbon footprint is really important.
And it's so interesting. I always say in the realm of entrepreneurship, negative behavior is always in the favor of aggregate effect. And that's because positive behavior, we expect a result. Negative behavior, we don't expect a result. And I see that especially within conservation and the environment, that things grow exponentially. They aggregate upon themselves. And one of the things that I want to bring forth by having you on is that the problem with the destructive negative behavior that we have towards pollution and emissions and environment is that, it may appear that, oh, well, this is only 25% of a problem. If it takes 20 years to get to 25%, then in 20 years from now, we'll be at 50%. And everyone's, oh, yeah, that's fine. We're only at 50%. Well, it's just another 20 years till you're at 100%, and another 20 years to 200%, and then 400 and 800. And pretty soon there's no oxygen, no water, no healthy inhabitable planet. How can we get people to understand that negative behavior aggregates on itself? It accelerates and compounds on itself. And that although you may not feel the impending problem today, that if we are 25% of a problem, that it is exponential how quickly we'll be at 50% of a problem, until very exponentially again, it becomes 100% of the problem. How can we get people to take a longer term perspective and understand the aggregate effect of what they do today for our future generations?
Yeah, that's a great point. And really, there's an issue in environmental science, ecology, lots of places, called shifting baselines, where what we see today we perceive as being normal, but it has changed. So research groups that I've worked with have looked at 100 years of climate data, for example, and we've seen over that 100 years that things have changed. We specifically focused on winter and the change into the spring season. That's happening about 3 weeks earlier, over 100 years. We have seen changes. And when we start to project out into the future, looking at climate, the data show and multiple models show that that will continue to happen. So, being wary of shifting baselines and thinking that, if winter ends or the snow melts on a certain day this year, that'll always be the case. It has already changed. We see that climate scientists are in agreement, and that's a really important point.
And last point, I'm an entrepreneur. I believe in the power of entrepreneurship itself and the power of financial change in order to effectuate the greater good. I believe in making a lot of money to help a lot of people and have a lot of fun in our existence. What do you say to people who aren't worried about climate change because they trust the engineering and evolution of technology that, just like fossil fuels were a terrible threat, and now we have transitioned through entrepreneurship and technology into alternative sources like the sun and the wind, and it's not as much of an impending factor of, having these fossil fuels be an issue. What do you say to people that would tell you, look, we'll just figure out some technology that will turn plastic into food. We'll fill back up the hole in our atmosphere with a spray, like Bill Gates shooting up salt into the air, whatever the heck they're doing. What would you tell people that are more confident in the entrepreneurship and innovation protecting us than the aggregate of the masses changing their behavior to not be negative and destructive? There's people that would say, look, we're not going to stop people from using plastic, throwing it where they shouldn't throw it, or even where they should. Instead, let's focus in on the technology to convert plastic to food.
Boy, that's a tough one. And technology certainly plays a role. I spent 20 or so years studying acid rain. And to be clear, fossil fuel emissions are a source of the carbon dioxide and other pollutants that still are causing climate change, as well as acid rain. And technology was part of the solution. That we've reduced acid rain quite a lot in this country. Part of it was more efficient scrubbers, more efficient processes in what's coming out of power plants. And as you mentioned, huge growth in terms of solar and new industries around cleaner energy. Which is fantastic. But there are some things in the natural world that can't be solved that way. So we look a lot here at AMC in the mountains at fragile alpine plants, for example. And if we're changing the ecosystem such that they become locally extinct or globally extinct, we can't go backwards. So there's sort of a balance. Technology can address part of it, but we really do have to also focus on conservation and protecting other species, not just our way of life.
Yeah, I just hope that we can be proactive with people like you and AMC to be able to counteract the destructive negative behavior, because a lot of times, it's just too late when we come to the realization or the awareness of the effect of our negative behavior. And through technology, we've been able to decipher and aggregate data to show the effect before the actual result has happened. It's one thing 100 years ago when they weren't capable of seeing or knowing the effect of what they were doing. Well, we know today. Yeah. And we have to, counteract apathy, ignorance, and empathy to utilize those in order to effectuate, the great changes that will be necessary to increase the habitability of the world. And the problem is a very big problem, a very big, challenging problem. We haven't even talked about outside. You're in the Northeast, just imagine the size, scope, and scale as you have the problem in the United States. But the environment is a global issue. And if there's a hole in our atmosphere, it will not just affect the United States. And if China and Europe and all of Asia and South America, they don't adhere as well, we still could be in grave danger of our existence. And, if anything, in 2020, we've learned for the first time in our lives to question our existence as a globe, as a human existence has been questioned for the first time ever as a whole. And hopefully it'll bring some enlightenment and encouragement to support you, your efforts, and to raise the awareness for everyone that we only have one planet to live on, and we should take care of our home.
Yeah.
It's not about the planet, it's about us.
Yeah, and one other thing we learned in 2020 is getting back outside, getting people outside and getting them observing the natural world. We at AMC and many places have citizen science or community science projects where people can observe what's around them, take photos and submit them through an app called iNaturalist, and really help the scientific community learn where some of these plants and animals are and what their timing is like, which has been a great effort and just gets people out there and participating in science.
And you have a great domain, outdoors.org. You can't get easier than that. So make sure everybody goes to outdoors.org. Check out Dr. Sarah Nelson. She's incredible at Appalachian Mountain Club, AMC. Let's support the CAN Initiative, Conservation Action Network, support outdoors.org. We are doing it for ourselves and for others. Thank you so much, Doctor. We appreciate you and your time, and of course, all the great work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a great weekend. Stay outdoors. It's beautiful.
Yes.
That's amazing. As I sit in my closet, stay outdoors. I'm going outdoors today. I always do. I vacation every day. I may grab my wife's 55 Ford Thunderbird and drive it down to the beach for half an hour to take my vacation for the day. All right, let's take one quick question. I always like to end on a good question. Let's see here. What do you do when your idea isn't appreciated by people around you, be it about work or anything? I take an approach of great ideas are laughed at, extraordinary ideas are scoffed at, unbelievable ideas are made fun of, and then they're applauded, right? Anything that's different, extraordinary, they get laughed at, scoffed at, and made fun of. Who cares? Who cares? I remember holding in 1999 as CEO of the world's first smartphone, the world's first Windows CE device with a Bluetooth stylus that you could utilize and call, and telling people that someday you'd be able to talk to China for free in color, full duplex, so you could interrupt one another audio-wise with Bluetooth. And they laughed at me, scoffed at me, and made fun of me. And now they applaud it. In fact, not only do they applaud it, they spend trillions of dollars using it because we can right now talk full duplex in color using Bluetooth around the world for free. Incredible. All right, everyone. If you want my 5 daily practices, the what, the who, the how, the now, and the why, if you want my book, ebook, audiobook, or even me to sign a book and ship it to you and pay for the book and shipping, I'm happy to do so. David@dmeltzer.com is where you reach me. Reach out, David@dmeltzer.com. Training is at 11 o'clock. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes from now, 11 o'clock Pacific time. We're doing how to close a deal training. So reach out to me, David@dmeltzer.com. Come to IG. It's on Clubhouse. It's in a webinar. I think we have over 43,000 people registered for training. So join us. You'll love it. David@dmeltzer.com. The 5 daily practices, my book, training, and of course, everything's available on my podcast, The Playbook. Download it. You'll love it. Like it. Entrepreneurs, billionaires, millionaires, celebrities, athletes, and entertainers, the biggest names giving you their playbook to success. Remember, most importantly, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. I'll see you in a couple hours. Thanks.